Hello, hello. Welcome back to the podcast. As always, I'm so glad you're here. We are right in the middle of a 7-part series, and I'm excited to get into it today. By the way, you may have noticed that the podcast cover, the podcast art that is used, when we put out an episode on iTunes or Spotify, wherever you listen, it has been updated. There are some changes there, but I'm not going to get into it today. But you may have noticed. If you didn't notice, go check it out. I'm going to unpack every little thing that we updated there in an upcoming episode. But today, let's get into this, shall we? Now, this is part 3, and I am going to be talking about breaking habits, patterns, and cycles. So, we are 3 episodes in. We talked about step 1 in part 1 of this series, which is step 1, decide your goal on purpose, because how you choose your goal determines everything that follows. And then the second episode of this series, step 2, decide how you will eat. And today, step 3, breaking habits, patterns, and cycles. We're going to get into that today. But before we do, let me do a quick recap, what we're doing in the 7-part series and why this matters, why you should listen, why you should share with a friend. If you want to lose weight this summer and you also want to heal while doing it, and I'm talking about healing your relationship with your body, healing your relationship with food, this is a series that you don't want to miss. I've mentioned this before. I have over 400 episodes of this podcast, and there are so many episodes where I go super high level strategy, high level mindset. We talk about nervous system regulation, all kinds of things. I've been doing this podcast for almost 10 years now. In this series, in this 7-part series, I am taking us back to the foundations. But not just any old foundations of any old kind of weight loss you can find anywhere, created through dieting, deprivation, blah, 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 all of that stuff that doesn't feel good for most of us and has not been effective or lasting for most of us, and most certainly hasn't been loving or kind and made our life better. Nope, that is not what we're doing here. This is a 7-part series. It is the Foundations 101 for the last 10. The last 10 is where we redefine weight loss for women, for the woman that wants results and healing. Like I said, you want results, but also you want to heal your relationship with your body, heal your relationship with food. As women, we are so smart, and our generation understands the harm, the damage caused by diet culture, endless dieting, yo-yo dieting, sabotaging, what it feels like to not trust yourself, to feel worried about food, to feel afraid to gain weight, to not feel good or at home in your body. We know the harm of all of that because we've lived it. And we know that it's time for something different. You know, on some level, that whatever it is that you've been doing for the past years or decades even, that was the case for me, and it's the case for most of my clients, is decades of battling with their weight and battling with food, battling with her body, and really it not being sustainable or loving or lasting, most certainly not empowering, and just knowing that it's not working, but also not knowing what else is available. How else can I do this? And how else can I do this in a way that's different? And I want to say this, I will say it time and time again, we have always deserved better. And so in this foundation series, I'm going step by step. Like I said, it's foundations. We're going back to basics, but not any old weight loss basics. It's the last 10. We are redefining weight loss for the woman that wants results and healing. Want to do this in a way that actually up levels your life experience, your relationship with yourself, with your body, because you have always deserved better. And so I'm walking you through this step by step. I'm going through these 7 essential steps to lose weight and create freedom from struggling with weight and food in a way that actually lasts. Quick recap. Step 1, decide your goal on purpose. If you didn't listen to that first episode, you definitely want to do that. Step 2, decide how you'll eat. And today, step 3, breaking habits, patterns, and cycles. Now, today's step 3, this is a big one because this is where a lot of stuckness lives. I'm talking about the habits that feel automatic, the patterns that feel like they are so ingrained, too ingrained. It feels like maybe they are just part of who you are. Maybe it isn't possible to change them anymore because they've been there. You've been doing things this way for so long. That's how it feels. That's not the case. And we're going to talk about that. I'm talking the cycles that you keep finding yourself stuck in. For example, it might look like the cycle of feeling exhausted, burned out, just completely depleted, and then late night really having these habits of comfort foods and taking the edge off with snacks, chocolate, sweets, crunchies, munchies, etc. That's a cycle that so many women keep finding themselves feeling really stuck in. And I'm over here raising my hand because that was completely me. You've heard me talk about my late night bowls and bowls and bowls and bowls of popcorn. So today I'm talking about breaking habits, patterns, and cycles, because think about this. Okay, so you've set your goal and you've done it on purpose. You've decided from this just intentional place how it is that you want to eat, thinking about your body, your goals, what you want for yourself, your vision for your life. And what gets in the way for most women is there are certain habits and patterns that are not part of your vision. They're not part of how you want to be doing things or eating or taking care of yourself. And it feels so hard, if not impossible, to change those habits, pattern cycles. I want you to think about right now. In fact, think about one, just one for now. There might be more than one. Just think about one for now. Think about one habit, one pattern, one cycle that if you change that, I want you to imagine if you could change this one pattern, this one habit, how much would that change your results? For example, let's say it's the late night snacking. If you were able to change that one pattern, that one habit, how much of an effect would that have on your results? How would your results be different? And so step 3 is super important. But you know what else is really important is that we're not going to do this the usual shamey, judgy, critical diet culture way. Okay? I'm going to talk about this here because it matters. It's important. Diet culture, the way that most of us have learned all of this stuff is that women should behave a certain way. We should eat a certain way. We should look a certain way. And of course, that all creates a bunch of just emotional suffering and feeling not enough and feelings of inadequacy for generations of women. Okay. So here's what it sounds like for most women when you have a goal of losing weight. It's like, oh, I should be doing this. I should be doing that. I'm not doing this enough. I need to do more of this. It's a lot of shoulds. It's a lot of I'm supposed to be doing this and I'm not doing it good enough. That's what most of us have inherited from diet cultures, these rules. And it's just this general idea that all women should behave a certain way and do certain things, especially eat in certain ways, basically designed to keep women in line. And part of that being with how we eat, what we don't eat, what we do, what we don't do, especially as it relates back to our bodies. But of course, that's not what we're here to do. And I promise you, I'm going to connect those dots even more, okay? Because it really, really plays an important role in all of this. And so I'm going to make a statement here, and this could be one that you write down in your notes. I had recommended in earlier episodes of this series, I really recommend having a notebook, writing down your biggest takeaways, but also writing down your decisions and the things that's like, okay, here's how I want to move forward. Here's how I want to do this moving forward. We are not here to quote unquote behave better, right? We are here to live freer. So I'm talking about freedom now, and I'm going to connect these dots with your weight loss goal. Because imagine if instead of achieving your weight loss goal through being constantly critical of yourself, oh, I should be doing this better and that better. Imagine if instead you can achieve your goal via freedom, via feeling more free. Because check this out, freedom from habits that are no longer ones that you desire, freedom from patterns and cycles, freedom from self-sabotage, freedom from any repetitive actions that are no longer aligned with who you are, freedom from any repetitive actions that currently hold you back from what you actually desire and how you actually want to do things. So we're completely shifting this from the core that this is not about quote unquote behaving better, like, oh, I need to be eating this way and this way, because that's how, what women quote unquote are supposed to do. That's the way it's supposed to be done. It's you achieving the results you want because you are releasing, like I said, any habits, patterns, cycles, self-sabotaging behaviors, any repetitive actions that are no longer aligned with who you want to be, how you want to take care of yourself. All that being said, honestly, we could spend so much more time there unpacking that, even in, with more detail and even in greater depth. But all of that to say this, it's really important that you take a moment, that you take time to decide what are the habits and patterns that you want to change. Notice I emphasized emphasis on want, on the word want. What are the patterns and habits that you want to change? Not that you think you should, or that you think you're supposed to, or that you think you need to. What are the habits and patterns that you want to change? You. And why? Why do I want to change them? And the why part, I want to make this distinction because it matters. You don't have to identify why because you have to justify it or explain it or it needs to make sense to anyone else. But identifying why you want that so that it's really clear for you why this matters to you. Okay, let me give you some examples of what this normally sounds like for women and why it ends up backfiring. Okay. Normally, when a woman has a weight loss goal and they're like, oh, okay, they can see that a certain habit is getting in the way of, I want to lose 5 pounds or 10 pounds. Then normally it sounds like this: I shouldn't eat bread. That's just one example. Okay. I'm just picking a few random examples and common examples. I shouldn't eat bread. I need to stop eating rice. I should cut back on diet soda. I really shouldn't be snacking after dinner. So notice in all these examples, I just listed out 4 examples. There could be many, many, many more. Notice how there's a bunch of shoulds and shouldn'ts and need tos and have tos and supposed tos, right? Versus check out how different this sounds. And why you decide to do certain things, it doesn't matter. What I'm breaking down right now, it's not that it matters because it's supposed to sound a certain way. No, but because if the way you're thinking about it changes, the way you feel when you're making these changes in your patterns, in your habits, you're going to feel different. Breaking that pattern, breaking that habit will feel different because you're thinking about it completely different. Because the decision to change that pattern, to break that habit, is coming from a completely different place. It's not coming from this place of like, oh, I guess I'm supposed to do this. I guess I should be doing this. I guess this is the way it's supposed to be done, according to the, some made up manual of how women are supposed to behave. That's such a completely different place than the examples that I'm going to share right now. For example, I don't want to eat bread because when I do, and then insert your reason, maybe your skin breaks out. Maybe you don't like how it feels in your body. Or maybe even it is because you notice you gain weight and that doesn't feel good for you and you don't want that. But you can already hear the difference. I don't want to X because of Z. Another example, I don't like the bloating that happens when I eat rice. So I want to eat less of it. That's another example. Here's another one for you. I don't want to have this diet soda habit because it's actually not what I want to spend my money on. Notice again, the importance is that the decision to change the habit or the pattern or the cycle is really, really coming from true choice. And you've heard me talk about true choice on this podcast many, many times. If you are a client of mine listening right now, you know true choice is such an important concept. And really, it's a skill. It is a skill. It is the skill of making decisions based on what you know and what you want. Another example might be, I'll make this the last example because honestly, I could go on and on with these examples, is I don't want to snack after dinner because then I don't sleep very well. Then my sleep isn't that great. Then I feel shitty the next morning. But there is going to be a very big difference, even energetically, from I shouldn't do XYZ compared to I don't want to. And that makes a big difference. You see, it's these decisions are coming from a completely different place. So like I said, it's really important for you to take the time, allow yourself, literally set your timer on your phone. Give yourself 15 minutes even. This can be something, it doesn't have to take you don't have to set up a whole weekend retreat to do this. You don't have to, it doesn't have to take a whole day. It doesn't even have to take an hour. But really, most people skip over this because most of us just kind of default to the shoulds and shouldn'ts of society that have been handed down to us. And again, that was completely me. It was a big part of why my attempts to change habits and patterns ended up backfiring time and time and time again for decades. They weren't coming from true choice, which again, true choice is making decisions based on what I know and what I want. They were coming from essentially what I thought I had learned about what I should do, how I should want to do things, what my life should look like, how I should eat. And those two things are very different. Sometimes there's overlap, and sometimes what feels good for you and what you want just happens to be, in line with that. But sometimes it's not. And that's why it's just important to take, like I said, set an alarm on your phone. Give yourself 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but don't skip through this part of actually deciding what are the habits and patterns that I want to change in my life and why. And of course, if you do notice yourself shoulding yourself, that is something that, for example, if you were inside of the last 10 and we're working together, something to bring to coaching and we can explore with coaching. I'll give you an example for me. When I first started doing this work of really being aware of my thoughts and my feelings and what that had to do with what the things that I ended up eating and why were the reasons that I ended up overeating or emotionally eating, I remember that for the longest time, I was shoulding myself about not drinking Diet Coke. I shouldn't drink Diet Coke. I shouldn't drink Diet Coke. And myself, as having been formally trained in nutrition, I knew that there was so many reasons for, you even all like just looking at a Diet Coke can and looking at the ingredients was like, okay, these are not healthy. And by the way, I am going to be talking about health a little bit more and unpacking that a little bit more. But let me just share this example with you. I was shooting myself as a, formally trained in holistic nutrition. There was such a big part of me that was shooting myself like, I shouldn't drink Diet Coke. That's not healthy. I shouldn't drink it. And literally, it was a habit because I was shooting myself that I should change it, but I didn't actually want to. It wasn't true choice. That decision or that attempt to change that habit, that behavior, wasn't actually coming from true choice. It was coming from a should. And so no surprise there. I didn't change that habit. There was no lasting change there. And I do this kind of coaching with my clients all the time because truly, truly, for so many of us as women, there's so much judgment around what we should eat, what we shouldn't eat, because it's something that, there's tons of socialization around. And when I am coaching a client and we really, really explore if there's a habit or a pattern that she's wanting to break, whether or not that decision is coming from actually from true choice versus what she thinks she has to do, should do, is a game changer. It really is. Yeah, it is a complete game changer. I would say that it's a make or break. It is a make or break. So shifting from I should to I choose, but truly requires that you're not judging yourself, what you actually want for yourself for reasons that are important to you. So notice the shift here. When you are setting a goal, you're making a decision. Okay, there's this habit I want to change. There's this pattern I want to change. There's this cycle I want to change. Really checking in that it is something that you want to do or to not do, truly, for reasons that are important to you. Not because someone told you it's something you should do, or there's this, just like idea in the in the ether, wherever, that it's something that, it should be done this way versus that way. Really, really checking in there. Now, I want to talk about this idea of health and being healthy. Okay, so even there, we're going to go there. It's important to go here and explore this. Because again, in order to get unstuck here, clarity and choice and really anchoring into true choice, which again is something that I teach my clients and they really are able to learn as a skill. It's a game changer. It's important to unpack these things in a way that feels super clear so that they then don't feel like something you just keep bumping up against. Okay. So let's make this note here on I should do this because it's the healthy thing to do. A lot of women try to should themselves about things because it's quote unquote healthier. And now let me make this super, super clear, right? Do not get me wrong. I'm not saying don't care about your health. So let's not get that twisted. That's not what I'm saying here. But let's unpack this. A lot of women try to should themselves about things because it's quote unquote healthier, right? The Diet Coke example. I shouldn't be drinking wine on the weekends because it's healthier not to, etc. Just to give a couple examples. But even with this, when you are considering health as a reason, is it your own idea of health or is it someone else's idea of health? Just some questions to consider, to start to explore. Here's another question. How important of a value is health for you? I'm going to share an example in a second that I'm actually really excited to share with you. So we've got a couple questions here to explore this with. When we're talking about health, I should do this because it's, healthier. I should stop eating XYZ or drinking XYZ because it's healthier. And remember, I'm not saying don't care about your health. That's not what we're doing here. But really, what these prompts that I'm offering you here allow you to do is to make this personalized, to make this individual. So the first question I offered is, when we're talking about health, is it someone else's idea of health or is it really your own? Like, what is your idea of health? And how important of a value is health for you? What does healthy mean to you? What does quote unquote healthy mean to you? Because here's really, I think, the biggest takeaway that I would offer here. If you feel like there are certain habits that you bump up against with like, why aren't I changing this? Like, this is the healthy thing that I'm supposed to do. If you feel like there's any habit or pattern that bumps up against with this idea of health, that kind of feels like an internal battle, definitely explore this and or join the last 10 and I will support you with coaching as well to explore this. Here's the main takeaway. Health isn't black or white. What is quote unquote healthy isn't black or white. Although in many cases, that's what we've been taught. That's what's been sold to us. That's what we've been taught, that health is this black or white thing. Like, here's this one idea representation of what it is to be healthy and what health means. But that's really not the case. When it comes to health or healthier or healthy, there's nuance. And there's individuality, and there are cultural differences, and there's personal preferences here. Okay, so I want to share a story with you here because I think this is such a great example of what we're unpacking here. And remember, The whole point of this is that just slow down, take 10 minutes to really intentionally decide what are the habits, patterns, cycles that I want to change. That's the whole point of everything that I am unpacking here with you. I want to share this story with you, and it ties back specifically to this idea of healthy or healthier or healthy. I was working with this client, and she was really exploring about whether she wanted to enjoy a piece of dark chocolate in the evenings or on the weekends, etc. And one of the things that came up for her, and this was really one of the last, like she had already lost the weight she wanted to lose. This is one of the last kind of like fine tuning things that she was exploring. And one thing she said to me is like, well, it's healthier not to have the chocolate. And we explored it. And here's the story that I shared with her. I said, yeah, I guess we could totally say that it is healthier, quote unquote, not to have the chocolate. But the thing is, right, this client that I was working with, this is something that she had been shoulding herself about changing. And so it was ineffective. Anytime that you're trying to change a habit from should, my experience, both personal and professional, and now I've coached hundreds of women over the past 9 years, is that it is ineffective. And so then this is literally how and why I created the concept of true choice, which then you're able to learn and implement that as a skill, as a decision-making skill in your day-to-day life, which that truly creates food freedom. Okay. So when she said that to me, I said, yeah, we could totally argue that not eating dark chocolate is quote unquote healthier. However, if you're trying to create change from should, and it's not actually something you want, or that's important to you, or that you want to change, it's gonna continue to feel ineffective. There was like a little bit of an internal battle happening between the dark chocolate and then this idea of health and healthy and healthiest and healthier. And I shared with her the story of giving birth. And I promise you, even as you're listening, it might sound like, what does that have to do with anything, Brenda? Here's what I shared with her. And I promise you, it's a little bit tongue in cheek, but it really, like, the whole purpose of this is like open up our brain to explore the nuance, the individuality, perhaps cultural differences, like how important of a value is health for you and what does it mean to you, so that there can be a spectrum versus like black and white and there's rules and you better do it this way and it's the only way. I shared with her the story of giving birth because I was like, and not even giving birth, but just motherhood. I was like, honestly, I could argue that being a mom is unhealthy. It F's up your sleep. Literally, when I gave birth to my daughter, and y'all know that I freaking adore my baby girl, Gianna, which by the way, she turned 6 and she's only a few weeks away from being done with kindergarten. Time is just flying. But anyways, I was sharing with her that when I gave birth to my daughter, it tore up my vagina. Like I was healing for, this might be TMI for some of you, but it took like a year and then some to really heal physically from that. I know so many women can relate to that. I'm like, it was exhausting. Like even actually the process of being pregnant or breastfeeding afterwards and like the nutrition, I can't remember who said this, or where I read this, but just the amount of nutrition that is taken from the mom to the baby. And it is a beautiful thing. And I literally would not trade being a mom for anything in the world. But that was the reason why I was sharing this. That was really my point, is that like, honestly, I think I could argue it is that being a mom, it was unhealthy. Like my body, there was physical trauma. I was exhausted. It was like depleted my, nutrition. I wasn't sleeping well. I'm like, being a mom was unhealthy. And yet I wouldn't trade it for the world. Possibly that if my most number one value in that example was health, maybe I wouldn't choose to be a mom, because that was like, wow. And so, like I said, it's a little bit tongue in cheek. And really, I'm offering this story because the whole purpose here is to explore that habits and cycles and patterns and what it looks like to be healthy, what it looks like to want to be healthier. The reasons why someone might want to change a habit might be related to health, but it might not. I wouldn't give up or trade in being a mom, being Gianna's mom, for anything in the world. So I guess I could say that, like, being a mom and that experience in this very specific case was more important to me than having great sleep, or was more important to me than, not putting my body through that experience. And again, I want to be super clear. I am not saying don't care about your health. Let's not get it twisted. That is not the point. But that the reasons for which we choose to change a habit, the reasons for which you can choose to break a pattern, to break a cycle, is completely nuanced and individual, and it's completely up to you. And there are cultural differences, and there's room for personal preference. What's important to you? Health might be one of the things. It also might be like, what is your idea of how do you want your day-to-day to look like? What is your idea of how you want your travels and your vacations to be? Maybe for you during that time, you do want to enjoy some more drinks, some alcoholic beverages. Maybe that's completely up to you. But that is one of the biggest things that I'm spending my time unpacking in this episode, because most women skip over this part. And don't blame yourself if you've skipped over it before, because that's part of diet culture that has been so harmful, that pretty much erases that we're all unique individuals, and really just has us feeling like there's this one right way to do habits. There's this one right way to do eating. There's this one right way that healthy looks like. There's this one right way that it looks like to take care of yourself. That doesn't leave room for you as an individual and what you want. And so we're literally like taking that power back, taking back that agency, that you get to be the one that looks at your life, that assesses your day to day, that you get to be the one that decides, okay, you know what? This doesn't fit with what I want. I don't want to be eating all this late night, I'll share my example, bowls and bowls of popcorn, because it totally flared up my rosacea. My sleep didn't feel great, all kinds of things. But making that decision to change that habit from true choice versus, oh, this is what I should do, I'm supposed to do, completely changed everything. Here's what I am going to invite you to do this week in your notebook, in your journal. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to write down one habit that you keep repeating. One. Kind of like the biggest domino is a great idea, because if you were to change that one habit, that would change so much of your results, your experience. I would pick that one, like the quote unquote biggest domino. But you don't have to. You could also decide, let me pick the one that feels the most approachable. Let me just start to work with this. Either way, those are a couple options there, but write down one habit that you keep repeating. And then right under that, I want you to write down, do I actually want to change this? Do I want to change this? Do I, insert your name, want to change this? Yes or no? Do I want to change this? And if so, why? That's the first question prompt for you to journal on. Bonus question, but super powerful. So I highly recommend it. Where have I been shoulding myself? As in, I should do this, I shouldn't do that. Instead of choosing intentionally, where have I been shoulding myself instead of choosing intentionally? What do I want and what matters to me? And remember, we're talking about habits and patterns and cycles here. Now, naturally, you might be wondering, because we're talking about breaking patterns, we're talking about breaking habits, we're talking about breaking cycles. Another way to call it is releasing patterns, releasing habits. You might be wondering, Brenda, can I do this on my own? Can I break patterns? Can I break habits on my own? And my short answer to that is yes. Yes. Because I never want to be the teacher, the guide, the podcaster that tells you that you need anything outside of yourself. You are powerful. So my short answer is yes. I want you to see yourself as capable and powerful. a powerful agent of change and a powerful creator in your life. I mean, how many stories have you heard of someone, for example, who had been a hardcore smoker for like 50 years, and then one day they just stopped smoking? They just decided, I'm going to stop smoking. They changed the habit. They were done with it. And granted, in a lot of these stories, it does usually take something big happening in their life, like just something big, really compelling that took place. But there's so many examples where someone just decides one day, hey, I'm going to change this. I'm changing this. That's my short answer to the question. Brenda, can I do this on my own? Brenda, can I break a habit on my own? Can I release a pattern on my own? Can I break a cycle on my own? Yes, you are powerful. And also, here's my other answer. Okay, my other answer is also, you don't have to do it alone. It doesn't have to take 10, 20 years. In fact, it doesn't even have to take a year. It is challenging for us as humans. Once something becomes habituated, the way that our human brains work, anything that's habituated, meaning that you've done it with repetition, thought it with repetition, felt it with repetition, it becomes a habituated pathway in your brain. And for our human brains, once something becomes habituated, a habit, pattern, a cycle, it can feel so challenging to change that. However, there are ways and there are techniques to interrupt patterns, to break cycles, to release habits. And I teach my clients inside of the last 10 research-backed strategies. I'm talking backed by literature, based in science, to stop habits in their tracks and to create new neural pathways so that you're supporting yourself at a brain level in creating change. So can you? Yes. But also you don't have to. You don't have to do it alone. And it doesn't have to take 10, 20 years. It doesn't even have to take a year. And so, of course, for that reason, I invite you to come and join us, come and join me inside of the most brilliant community of women doing this work with the most badass coaching support, holistic coaching support, utilizing research-backed techniques for rewiring patterns and habits, really based in brain science. It is brain science, but it's not just your brain, it's all of you, right? Behavioral science and even energetics, the energetics of breaking patterns, habits, and cycles. I have so many client examples that I can share with you. In fact, I'm thinking of an example right now where a client of mine, recent client of mine, they will bring a habit to our coaching call. And literally on the coaching call, I will utilize rewiring techniques literally on the call. And then there's this client that I'm thinking about right now where I've even had clients be sitting in the place where they normally sit to eat the foods that, and even have the food right there with them on the call, on the coaching call. They join the call from the place where they normally sit to, eat the late night snacks or whatever. And they'll even have the food there with them so that we can do these rewiring techniques, these techniques for deconditioning patterns and cravings. So we can do that as well. And it is so powerful. My other answer to that question is you don't have to do it alone. And you also don't have to reinvent the wheel. Come and do this work. If this is something that you're really resonating with, that's really important for you, that you're like, oh my gosh, yes, there's this one habit, or there might even be 2 or 3 habits or cycles that you want to really break free from, come and join us. I would love to support you in this process, and I would be honored to support you in this process because it is such powerful and valuable and important work for us as women to be free in this area of our lives. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, I had one of my clients. She had joined the coaching call the previous week. Like I said, she was sitting in the spot where she normally sits to eat the thing, the thing that we were coaching on. She even had that food there. And then the next week, she joined the coaching call and she said, wow, this literally feels like magic, even though, of course, it's not magic, but it's brain science. And it's all of bringing in these research-backed techniques and integrating it and being fully supported, and then in a brilliant supportive community. But she said, wow, that was like magic. I literally am not even experiencing cravings for this thing anymore that I had been doing for years. And she said, I feel free. And so this is the kind of nuanced, powerful work that we do inside of the last 10, where you're not just trying to break habits and do it in a way that feels very still tied back and anchored into diet culture. But we're really switching gears here, where all of it is about you feeling powerful in this area of your life, reclaiming agency in this area of your life, and breaking free from habits, but the ones that you choose to. Breaking free from cycles and patterns, but the one that you truly, truly have decided, like, I want to be free of this behavior. I want to be free of this pattern, of this habit. And when you approach it in this way, it's going to feel completely different. It's going to have completely different byproduct and results for you. Even the results will feel different. And so this summer, I've made this invitation in the past couple of weeks, but I want to remind you, because we're going to get started soon. This summer, let your weight loss be the weight that you want to lose this summer. Let it be about freedom, not throwing on more rules, not throwing on more, oh, I should do this, I'm not doing this good enough, and just feeling inadequate and stuck. Come and join us inside the last 10. We'll make sure to include the link inside of the show notes, because there's something really special happening inside of the last 10 this summer. I'm kicking off something really special in the last 10. I'm calling it the Summer of Freedom. So this is what I'm inviting you into. Freedom from habits, patterns, and cycles that no longer match who you are, who you want to be. Freedom from a weight that doesn't feel good for you on your body. Freedom from self-sabotage, limiting beliefs, old identities. Freedom from anything currently holding you back and keeping you feeling stuck. If you want to lose weight this summer, this is how we're doing it. We do this in a way where you're not just losing weight, you're healing. As I said at the very beginning, healing your relationship with your body, healing your relationship with food, healing your relationship with yourself. Come and join me and the Last 10 community this summer for our Summer of Freedom. Join us for our Summer of Freedom. Now, we are officially starting on Monday, May 12th. So that's the Monday right after Mother's Day. And for any of my moms listening, like, what a Mother's Day gift. This is something that resonates for you. Go to brendalamelli.com. Go get yourself signed up. You'll get instant access when you get enrolled and you complete your payment. You get instant access. So we'll get started right away. But we will be officially kicking off our Summer of Freedom on Monday, May 12th. And also, I am going to be having a kickoff ceremony that we're going to be having together for the Summer of Freedom, where I'm going to be guiding you through. It's going to be a special call that we're going to have just for this, to kick off our Summer of Freedom, where I'm going to guide you through setting your intention and the energy setting for the summer. We're going to have a guided ritual together. I'm even going to be guiding you through writing a letter to your past self, your body, as part of that healing, that powerful healing that will be taking place. So know that you are here to do this different, to do it in a way that's powerful, to do it in a way that's loving, to do it in a way that's healing, and to do it together in our brilliant TL10 community. Okay, let this be the summer that you are able to experience next levels of freedom and empowerment in this area of your life. Like I said, I would be honored to support you. Go to brendalamelli.com, go to the last 10, and make sure that you join and get signed up and complete your payment before May 12th, so that you can kick off this whole Summer of Freedom together with us on our special kickoff call. And I cannot wait to see you there.